Here are the lifestyle changes I'll be making for health and weight loss. It is currently March 11th, 2026, and I'm just sharing this to kind of refine in my own brain what I'll be doing, as well as to just put it out there so that other people can see and be able to, kind of track my progress as I make future videos about my progress. So let's go over my current situation, what I'm going to be doing. So first of all, it's school. I'm on spring break right now. But at school for soccer, we lift about 3 times per week. I usually lift extra on my own, so like 3 to 5 times per week. Recently, I've been dialing back how much I lift and kind of switching more towards calisthenics and kettlebells and other things which I'll talk about. Additionally, we practice at least 3 times a week for soccer. That may be four. I also do practice, usually try to do every day on my own, like juggling and dribbling skills. And also, we're going to be having games probably about once a week in the spring season. We have 5 games total. I think I'll only be making 4 though because of something else coming up at the end of the semester. Also, I usually run most days at school. We usually lift in the morning and then play soccer. Then I have my classes, whatever, do a bunch of work, and then I'll go to the gym and just run for like, depends on what I do, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on if it's just like low jog, like 7.5 miles per hour stuff on the treadmill. I'll be doing more stuff outside, but that was just what I was doing in the winter. Or maybe it's like a Norwegian 4x4, so it's only like 30 minutes, or other things like that, depends. But usually I have been running every day. Currently, I'm 180 pounds, um, and I'm 5'7". I, I do, I I I like my body, but I want to lose 10 pounds. I think I'll look great for the summer, and I think I'll be a lot lighter and be able to be, better at soccer for it. Um, and I think, I have room to improve in that sense. So I'm looking to get down to at least 170 and see where that is and go from there. Currently, I think I'm at about 16% body fat would be my guess. Um, I'm looking to get to like 12%. And right now, like I said, we're heading into the spring soccer season, so we're going to be having games. Recently, I've been more sore than usual, whether it's, my lower body, mostly my lower body and legs. Not entirely sure why. Probably, well, going to be changed from what I do here in terms of like sleep and my nutrition and diet. But just more sore than usual, and I want to make sure that I'm recovering properly, especially because I've had recent injuries with my hamstring and sorts. So I want to make sure that I am properly equipped and most preventative of injury for both this spring soccer season and then heading into the summer and for my junior year for soccer. And, obviously there's just a lot more benefits to what I'm going to be talking about in terms of what I'm changing, not just for soccer, but that is a big reason. So this is my current situation. Going for losing 10 pounds, going for, more preventative injury and not as sore. And this is currently what I have been doing. So let's go into what I'm going to be changing. First is during the spring season at school, I'm going to be running less. Since first of all, we're going to be having soccer games. I'm not entirely sure how much I'm going to be playing, but that is definitely something that I need to be preparing for. So I'll be doing less running. I'll still probably do at least one Norwegian 4x4 per week and just some low level running here and there. I also just like to run outside and sorts of that. But what I'm going to do is instead of running, every day, I'm going to transition some of that running into more mobility work. So something I really want to work on is my hips. One of my teammates is really good with his hips and he talks about it all the time. So it's definitely something that I need to work on with my hip mobility, and just working on those muscles there and being more, preventative of injury there and flexible and mobile. And then also that's something I like to do in general. I haven't really been stretching as much as I have recently because of my recovering from injury and my hamstring. I hadn't really want to stretch as much because I wanted to really kind of rebuild the strength there before I really get the stretch, because the stretching was kind of what was hurting. But getting into more really mobility stuff, strength and length is something that I'm going to transition more of from running. And then lately, past couple months, I haven't been really lifting as much. More is what I've been doing is calisthenics things. So I've already kind of made that transition for the last couple years about transitioning away from, sort of weights and regular weightlifting towards calisthenics. And so what I basically do pretty much whenever I do upper body days is like handstand push-ups, and these are things that I do throughout all the days in general. I do this thing called like hourly movement where I usually get up and do some sort of exercise every hour when I'm like sitting down and working of that sort. But so it's like handstand push-ups. I like get up and do push-ups every morning. Pull-ups. I'm learning the front lever right now. I'm learning uh, I do L-sit a lot, which I love. I'm learning the planche on the parallel bars. I just love messing around with the parallel bars. I sometimes do dips, but like mostly my triceps have just been getting worked through like stuff that I've been doing on the parallel bars, a lot of L-sits and things of that sort. And there's not much else I'll do for, oh, and then some kettlebell workouts that I'll do. I love, like snatches, um, and, other sorts of things with kettlebells. And I really enjoy it a lot more than just straight up late weightlifting. And it feels like, number one, I don't need to build any more muscle than I think I currently have. I just need to build strength. And so whenever I do strength training or weightlifting, it is primarily strength focused. So I'll do lower reps and higher weight. And so, I'll still do incline bench to work like my upper chest, but I'll do, lower reps and higher weight. Or maybe I'll do deadlifts or squats, not too often, but we do it for the soccer lift sometimes, and I'll just do, more strength based. And that's what I'll be doing. Basically, I have been doing that recently, but I'll be doing it more. Um, and then yeah, just not much else in terms of like weightlifting for my upper body, kind of just these calisthenics and kettlebell movements. I will do, other calisthenics is like for my abs, I'll do the leg raises. I'll do kind of the flag pulls on the bench. Um, the ones where you're like kind of falling backwards and the upward crunch, I forget what it's called. And then kind of the only thing maybe I'll do is shoulder raises with weights. It's kind of only the real things I do with weights recently. But yeah, I really enjoy the calisthenics and the kettlebells, and that's things that I'll be doing for the rest of my life. So that's great. That's what I'll be changing for exercise. A big thing that I'm going to be changing also is how I'm structuring my diet. The foods that are pertaining in my diet will pretty much still be the same. I'll probably make a video about that soon, about like my current diet. It usually changes recently, like sometimes based on what foods I like and foods that I discover, things of that sort, but it mostly stays pretty much the same. The biggest thing is this, but I'll start with this. I'm gonna be slightly decreasing my protein and fat intake. So I weigh 180 pounds, but my desired weight is about 170. So I really only realistically need to be hitting at least 160 to 170 grams of protein per day. Um, but usually I'm hitting like 200 grams of protein just from the foods that I eat. I eat a lot of cottage cheese, yogurt, steak, maybe some chicken sometimes, eggs, Parmesan cheese. Like it's really easy for me to hit my protein goals just because that's kind of how I designed my diet. So I will be decreasing some of that and only hitting about 170 to 180 grams of protein. And then on like super high intensity days, I'll do 200 grams of protein just because that's how it works out, as I'll talk about in a sec. And then same thing with fat. I usually hit probably like upwards of 100 grams of fat a day. And I'm going to be lowering that a bit in replace of carbohydrates to fuel my training. And this is going to be especially important as I'm trying to lose weight while in the soccer season, or not in the real soccer season, but in the spring soccer season. When, we have games, we have practices, I need to be performing. I don't want to be, sluggish to that sort or prone to injury. And so what I'm going to be doing is going to kind of counteract that as much as possible while still being able to lose weight. By lose weight, I mean lose fat, obviously. But The biggest thing is calorie and carb cycling. So I've split days into 3 possible days. I have, a rest and light day. I have an intermediate day and a high intensity day. High intensity days are going to be days where, we lift and have really hard practices, or we have a really hard game. Those are high intensity days. Then I have intermediate days, which is maybe like a lift and like a chiller practice, or just like a captain's practice and I'll lift on my own, or just like a lift and I'll do running on my own, kind of like intermediate. And then there's the rest days, which is really just, you know, super light mobility lift type stuff, or just nothing at all, or just a light recovery jog, things like that, where, I'm not going to be burning too much or spending too much energy. And so on those days, I have split up in my chronometer 3 days aligned with each of those. So on the low day, like the rest day, it's probably going to be around 2,400 calories per those days. 170 grams of protein, about 80 grams of fat or so, and then the carbs fill up the rest of it. And the carbs are mostly fruit, maybe some potatoes. That's pretty much it. And then the carbs that just come with, like cottage cheese and yogurt and things of that sort, some honey. Then on my intermediate days, fat will go down a little bit towards like 75. It's not a crazy difference. It's like 80 on the rest days, 75 on the intermediate days, and then like 70 on the low days. It's kind of just from changing out some small things. Protein again is going to stay around like 170, 180 for that intermediate. For the higher days, protein goes up to 200, which I'll talk about in a sec. But what's increasing here in the intermediate day and then the high intensity day is the carbs. I'm just going to be having a lot more carbs, specifically in and around my workouts, to fuel my workouts, because I will inherently be kind of in a calorie deficit across weeks. I'm going to be needing the carbs near my workouts, before and after, to really fuel my soccer and my lifts. And so the carbs actually increases by quite a lot, because then the intermediate day, I'm probably around 28 to 3,000 calories. And then on the high intensity day, I'm around 3.4 to 3.5 thousand calories. Usually I burn on average at school around, I would say average 3,500 calories a day, which is quite a lot. Sometimes I'll get up to 4,000. Very rarely will I only be at 3,000. I do a lot of walking at school. I'm always kind of exercising and doing these things, so I really burn a lot. But what I had done recently in the situation, like I've been wanting to lose this 10 pounds. I've been 180 for like months or years, and I've been wanting to lose it for a while and been attempting to, but haven't really been able to, mostly because I hadn't been taking it too seriously. But also just that I was kind of either trying to do it through fasting or do it through an everyday deficit. Here, I'm more trying to do it through a weekly deficit. So on intermediate days, on high intensity days rather, I'll be eating more than I burn. On high intensity days, I'll be burning, 35 to 40,000, 35 to 4,000 calories, and I'll be consuming more than that, like 100, 200, 300 calories more than I'm burning on the high intensity days. On the intermediate intensity days, I will probably be eating like 200 or 300 less than I burn. So a very slight calorie deficit. And then on the rest days is when I'm really going to be burning the most calories in terms of like deficit wise, because I'm only going to be consuming about 2,400 calories, and I'll be burning around 3,000 or more. And so over the week, I'm hoping to have a calorie deficit of about 3,500 calories, which is 1 pound of fat, which would mean I'd lose about 10 pounds in about 10 weeks. And I'll talk about, a trip I'm going on later that I'm planning on fasting during, which will kind of supplement that too. But one of the biggest things that I'm doing is on the high intensity days, where I'm consuming about 3,500 calories or even more than that, depending on how much I burn. I'm going to be consuming more than I burn on those high intensity days. So it might be even closer to 4,000 calories. I'm going to, instead of eating all of those calories, extra calories at dinner, I'm going to save some for a pre-bed snack. I'm going to eat a snack of about 400 calories, 40 grams of protein, 60 grams of carbs, about 90 to 60 minutes before I intend on falling asleep. And so this is made up of, honey, like a kiwi, maybe some frozen wild blueberries. And then the protein is coming mainly from cottage cheese. And I'm going to mix in a little bit of kefir for the extra probiotics. But that's exactly what it's going to be. And I think I'm going to do that because on those high intensity days, like I'm young, super resistant to insulin, super healthy. And I always talk about not eating close to bed because you don't want to stunt your digestion and not allow your body to kind of heal and repair because it will just be digesting your food. That won't necessarily be occurring too much for me. For me, I think it's going to be better to have this snack of protein and carbs before bed, 90 to 60 minutes, to really allow me to have a better, honestly, I think it will help me have better sleep and better recovery. The protein will be slow releasing to give my body, the proper amino acids during sleep to help me recover, as well as carbs can be very, calming on just your body and your nervous system, and will help me get better sleep and help me have, higher growth hormone pulses at night to be able to recover better, which I think will not only give me better recovery for my injuries, but also not being as sore, and weight loss is a big thing. And to aid on that, one of the biggest things that I'm doing is bumping my sleep up to 9 hours. So my average sleep is about 7 hours, 20 minutes per night. That's what my Fitbit tells me my average sleep is. I'm drawing all over my hand here. My Fitbit tells me that my average sleep is about 7 hours, 20 minutes per night, and my deep and REM is about 90 minutes each per night. And so I usually get into bed and try to fall asleep about 8 hours before my alarm. For this, and with what I'm changing, I'm going to be bumping that up to 9 hours before I plan on waking up, as in my alarm. And so I'm hoping to get at least 8 hours, maybe 8.5 hours of real sleep. Even if my deep and REM don't really increase, which I think they will a little bit, but even if they don't, that extra light sleep will really be helpful and help me recover more. Again, aiding in my fat loss, aiding in, just less soreness, more recovery, really preventative of injury, especially when I'm in a weekly calorie deficit, which I think can honestly be beneficial too on just my body and mitochondria and metabolism in general. But that is basically my plan for the next 10 weeks, if not more, and especially during the soccer season. So we'll see, how well I'm able to stick with this. And I really think it's going to be good. And of course, it's even myself, I love making these plans about, what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to do. The hardest part is really sticking to it. Like I can lay all this out, but for me, the hardest part is going to be actually doing it. I actually have to, instead of run, go on do like some more mobility. And I really gotta focus on, the foods that I'm eating and making sure I'm getting enough carbs, making sure I'm not eating too much fat and protein, and really supplementing that for carbs instead, and making sure to, get in bed 9 hours before I have to set my alarm. I like to read for about an hour before bed, and so that's like 10 hours before my alarm where I need to get in bed. And if I'm waking up usually at school at around 5:40, actually, I'll tell you guys this fun thing. Our practices are about like 6:45. I can wake up at 6 o'clock easy, get up, do my like cold shower, brush my teeth, whatever, drink my electrolytes, and make it to soccer practice easily by like 6:35, which is like plenty of time to put on my shoes and get ready for warm-ups. But what I've been doing, which I like, is setting my alarm 10 minutes before I actually need to get up so that I can snooze once. And I've done this in the past a lot of times, but I've thought to myself like, damn, am I really just a little bitch to where like I need that 10 minutes? I can't just get up and go about my day. But after thinking about it, like I'm totally good with going to bed 10 minutes early so I can wake up 10 minutes early and snooze my alarm so I can sit there and just think and lay in my bed for 10 minutes just about the day, about what I'm going to be doing. Even if I fall asleep, it's, I don't know, it just feels better for me and I'm able to wake up and get going a lot quicker. So that's what I do. I'll set my alarm for like 5:40, 5:50, snooze once, then get up at 5:50 or 6 and go about my day. But that's just me. So if I set my alarm for 5:50, that means 9 months, I mean 9 hours before that would be, I think, 8:40, right? Because yeah, it'd be 8:50. So I have to have lights out, head on pillow, trying to go to bed at 8:50, which would give me my 9 hours of in bed trying to go to sleep, which means I'd start reading at around 7:40 and start journaling maybe 7, all things in my head. Things will change and go around, but that's kind of what it is. And, I've been doing that for a while. Hasn't really been that early, but something that I'm really going to try to do because I really think the sleep will help me a lot in terms of my recovery, especially in this time of less calories. So, yeah, extra sleep, biggest one. Really got to stick towards that. Snack before bed on high intensity days, splitting my eating up not to the same thing every day, but really varying it based on my intensity of exercise and really putting my carbs in and around my workout, which I usually do, but increasing them as well based on the intensity of the day. Less running, more mobility, more calisthenic stuff, which I've been doing in general. And I really think that will help me lose 10 pounds, be more resilient to injury, just recover better, be less sore for this upcoming spring season and going into the summer. So that's my plan for improving my health and my weight loss for the next 10 months. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.